to be developed between the few towns that it represents or serves. I'm just, willing and have the time, or will have the time as of the 1st of September when I'm unemployed, to devote as much as I can to it.
Great, thank you.
And David?
Well, besides the challenges you just articulated arising from the change in the healthcare coverage system, are there other challenges that you think are facing rescue and things that you'd like to work on?
The biggest challenge, I think, has always been funding. I am not familiar with rescue now as far as the percentage, if they even volunteers versus paid staff. I know as a volunteer way back, it was getting to the point where it was a big liability to be on the paramedic level and be a volunteer because, the liability of everything. So I don't know what the exact structure of rescue is now, but they always are going to need ongoing training. You don't stop training. You're always going to need money because it's expensive. And they were talking today on public radio that they're going to start taxing companies that are making medical devices. So who knows? It's just everything's going up in price. The days of free ride to the hospital are long gone. So I'm hoping that they can survive the changes that and keep providing us the same level of service.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next is Janet Kramer with Brattleboro Housing Authority.
It's interesting to be on the other side of the
Yes.
app.
Now we have questions for you, Janet Kramer.
That's a pleasure, believe me.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And again, thank you for reapplying for your position. I have a few questions for you. Obviously, I think you're well aware of everybody sitting up here, as
Yes.
you've interviewed all of us at least
As I
once.
say, that was a privilege for me as a League of Women Voters member.
So I'm going to start the questioning with Dora.
So, Janet, why are you interested in the position of Commissioner for Housing Authority?
Having invested 5 years in learning all of the complications of HUD and the ways in which we need to marshal both private and public concerns around providing housing, not only for people who are elderly, but people who have mental and physical disabilities. I feel I can use that learning to good advantage in continuing with the Commission. My other concern is that we not only focus on building, rebuilding, providing housing, but having a better quality of life in that housing. One of the big issues coming up for us is converting gradually and thoughtfully into non-smoking buildings. And it's that kind of policy setting that I think is very important. Obviously, also, when we came and presented to the Select Board around the purchase of 1063 Western Avenue to provide a mixed-use housing so we could move the tenants we had planned to from Hayes Court, so we could rebuild that to provide a building in which we could provide the assisted physical assistance, medical assistance to enable people who want to stay in the community to have a place where they could. We didn't have any idea that Melrose was going to be the one that would flood rather than Hayes. But I feel the deep commitment to staying with the Housing Authority to do what we intended to do, which is to provide safe, affordable housing for people in need out of the floodplain rather than in the floodplain.
I'll take the next one.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna tweak it a little though. Can you talk a little bit about what voice you feel you've brought to the table over your years of service?
Well, my interest in this was piqued because as a geriatric social worker, I started out at age 51 going into housing authorities as I was working with elders who were in need and seeing just how much a safe place to live made a difference in the quality of their lives and how isolated people were unless there was somebody who took the role of connecting people with our SASH programs, support and services at home. That is another tool that we are using to try to bring medical care, housekeeping assistance to enable people to stay in their homes rather than have to go to an institution or a nursing home. I started out as a social worker in full-time in 1988, and that was just at the time when the physical and mentally disabled people were integrated into what was formerly elder housing. And I saw a lot of distress and need to help people figure out how to fit together as a community. And that's still a need. So my work as a clinical social worker, not only a geriatric social worker, but somebody who has done a lot of family systems study, has certainly informed the way I look at the systems we're looking at in the Commission.
Thank you.
You touched upon this briefly. We'll give you an opportunity to expand on this answer. What do you think one of the main issues facing the BHA is today?
I think our primary issue is creating the opportunity for safe, affordable housing outside of the flooding zone. And I'm currently assigned to as one of the subcommittee looking at the options of building, maybe rebuilding some of the buildings that we already have. We know that the Hayes Court buildings are, they were built in 1970. HUD will not let us upgrade the buildings that don't have elevators. We have difficulty renting, particularly on the second floor, the studio apartments. You don't expect a housing authority to have a lot of vacancies, and yet we've had 60-day vacancies in those studio apartments. We need to build, and probably not build one large building for the 180 apartments that we need to replace. We're really looking at probably several sites. Certainly in the Hayes Court area, the Housing Authority owns land that is above the floodway, above the floodplain. So we were at almost final design stage for a building there. The Housing Authority, with the guidance of Stevens Associates, has backed off and said, let's look at integrating all of our needs, not just replacing the buildings at Hayes Court, to see how we can be aware of the community needs. Certainly West Brattleboro is saying we don't want everybody to leave West Brattleboro, but we also want to look at some other sites. So we're not just doing one large building and saying, well, we've settled everything. I suspect we're also going to be looking at integrating market rate and subsidized apartments, which may be a more affordable way to do it, and certainly a better integrated way to do it for the community. I would say that I think the Housing Authority has the best interests of the town at heart, not just to say, well, we'll take the poor people and house them, but just concerned about good quality housing at a range of affordability. So I think that's what I care about.
Very good. Well, thank you. And
Thank you.
we will be
Thank you.
making a decision here later on this evening.
Okay.
And so we appreciate you again putting your name in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Used to be so close.
No, that's fine. That's
I
okay.
never got anything from your vacation, postcards.
It's all my photos. Show all my photos on my
You just want to
iPhone.
have a seat right over there by the microphone, that'd be great.
That one hurt me even. I wasn't feeling it till he said it.
Hurt you too, didn't it?
Hurt your feelings? Oh, jeez. Oh, what have I done?
Good afternoon. And Mr. Newell, welcome thank you for applying for a Brattleboro Housing Authority vacancy. We have 3 candidates for 1 position. This is the reason for the interviews. We have a few questions for you. Not sure if you know everybody up here. Mr. Chapman, Mr. Schneck, Mr. Gartenstein, and Ms. Baboulis. We'll start the questioning off with Dave Gartenstein, and I'll give you the rest of the details after we do the interview. David?
Well,
Hi, David.
why do you want to be on the Housing Authority?
Well, I had been living in Brattleboro for a number of years, and my mother, health was declining, and so I invited her to move up here. And she eventually, after living here for a couple of years, lived in the Brattleboro Housing Authority. And I always appreciated the nice facilities they had for people who were elderly and whose income was sort of limited. So I've always appreciated that and thought, well, I'm retired now, I have time. And I always appreciated what they did. So.
Dora?
So, what skills or knowledge do you bring to the position?
Well, I've been a resident of Brattleboro, I think, for 34 years. I have a postmaster's degree. I've been an administrator, school administrator. I'm a very organized individual. And my wife says I'm a good listener, which is extraordinary for a wife, I think. So, and I've been in enough situations where I understand there are going to be differences of opinion, and sometimes people could have some strong feelings, and that's okay. I can deal with that and understand it.
Christopher?
Bob, what is, in your opinion, one of the main issues facing the Housing Authority today?
You know, that's the hard question, because I haven't followed it closely, because, you know, I never thought about getting involved until just recently. So the only thing that I'm aware of is obviously with the hurricane and the damage that was caused. Obviously there's some issues that need to be addressed, and probably in the short term and probably in the long term. But other than that, I'm not aware of, nor do I have any inkling of any other issues that need to be addressed by the Housing Authority.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell us about?
No, I think there are a number of people here who know me, you know, so I'm more than happy to be a part of that board. I have the time and I have the interest, so I have no issues. I have a lot of issues, but not with the Housing Authority.
Well, again, thank you for applying. Later on in our meeting here this evening, we'll be making the appointments. And so we will let you know one way or another whether you garnered a seat. You have been appointed to the Rec Department Board, so I want to thank you for applying, putting your name in there.
I've had a conversation with Carol, and we'll be getting together sometime next week.
Good. Well, thank you for applying there.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, a couple of announcements. Tom Scala, who had I got a call from him today withdrawing. He realized that it was a 5-year commitment and thought that was a little too long, so he will not be interviewing this evening. He's withdrawn his. And then Joe Parent has withdrawn his application for the Tree Advisory Committee. So, but Ann Britton is here, and I will grab her real quick.
Here, ask for it. There we go. He took that one with you in mind.
Huh?
He had you in mind when he snapped that one.
Hoping I was jumping on.
Did you know that 100% of the people who jump do it facing the city?
Go, go. No, stop, Dick. Go.
Let me help. This is for which position?
Tree advisory.
Tree advisory.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hello, I don't think I'm going to need this.
No? Well, we're going to leave it there anyway,
Oh, that's fine.
because it's affixed to the table, so.
Oh,
Thank you for applying for the Tree Advisory Committee.
it's a pleasure to do any kind of service for this lovely place that I can. I hope I can.
Well, we do have a few questions for you. We'll be making our appointments later on in our meeting here this evening. And so I'll start the questioning. Why are you interested in serving on the Tree Advisory Committee?
Well, for one reason, I consider trees our living monuments, our responsibility. And I was lucky enough to come to a meeting of the Tree Advisory Group a couple of years ago, because evidently, I don't know who on the committee decided to put a sign in front of a tree in front of the library that was going to be taken down. There was a notice to us to say that that was going to happen. I don't remember what the exact wording was, but that got me to a committee meeting, and I was totally impressed. It was a small meeting. I was welcome, and my input was taken seriously, and it was decided what they were going to do about that, and they were going to moderate taking it down completely. They could do something a little less invasive. So that was my experience, and also I'm also interested because I'm a pedestrian and have been all my life, and especially the summer of 2010 was a hot summer. I knew where every tree, shade tree was, and that was where I went. You know, I made sure my walk would have some kind of relief when I got there. And I was kind of surprised to get to Key Bank. There was this glorious tree that was no longer there. I didn't see any sign or anything about that. And that was hard. And I don't know about what the policy is these days about trees. But that's kind of the short. I know nothing about trees. I have a question here. What's my skill of knowledge I bring to this position? Well, I've got a passion for trees. I just don't know much about them. I think they're God's gift. Mom Nature, so, and I'm pretty on time, pretty responsible person. And if I was on a committee, I'd try to listen to people like I was listened to. Whatever their opinions are, and that might be it, unless you have some questions for me.
Well, we think you have the passion. It sounds like you have passion for the position. We're going to be making this appointment a little later on here in this meeting.
Oh,
And so I want to thank you for coming here.
well, that was
And,
painless.
That was painless. That's right. So I believe there's a strong opportunity you might be serving on that committee. So,
Well, that sounds lovely. I hope so.
okay. Well,
Thank
thank you
you.
very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Okay, I'm going to accept the motion to go into Water and Sewer Commissioners.
Move to convene as Water and Sewer Commissioners.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. We're Water and Sewer Commissioners.
last June 19th meeting, you received the same memo from Hoyle Tanner. Under number 3B was authorization of the following changes. They did have a request, although there, and I missed this when we were looking at it. There is a request both from Hoyle Tanner and the Department of Public Works, which was approved by the wastewater treatment plant oversight committee, that you approve the project change order, to approve a project change order in the amount of a credit of $9,391 for modifications of the coatings schedule. That is actually one they would seek that you approve at this time. The other one, C, has not yet been fully negotiated, but B has been, and so we are asking that you, someone make a motion to approve a project change order in the amount of a credit of $9,391 for modifications of the coatings schedule.
And that's for which piece? Is that which piece of equipment? I'm sorry?
It is for 2 existing concrete structures.
Oh, is that like the Black Mountain one? Is that
No,
what
this
we're
is down at the wastewater treatment plant
Oh,
upgrade.
Okay. And
It's the coatings that they put in some of the concrete. All the concrete structures have some type of coating in there.
I see. Okay, sort of preserve the concrete and all that? Okay.
And this is a modification of that coating schedule, which results in a credit of $9,391.
You mean it's going to save us that much money?
Yes.
Thank you.
So did you say so moved?
Yes, you did.
I thought it, yes. So moved.
Using it for something else.
Motion has been made to endorse the credit of $9,391. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of that motion on the floor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0.
Christopher made that motion.
Christopher made that motion, yes. And I think that
Okay.
Move
that's,
to adjourn as Water and Sewer Commissioners.
there you go. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Back to regular business and committee appointments.
So,
So here,
yeah.
actually, we only have,
Well, why don't we do the 2 easy ones first?
Um,
No, I'm just saying of the worst.
I'll just, there was an interview this evening by Deborah Miller Chapman for Rescue Inc. Leon Boyd has been serving in that position. He came this evening to give an update to the board. He would go on to serve, but he is also willing and happy to give it to someone else if the board so chooses. There were 2 interviews for the Brattleboro Housing Authority, Janet Kramer and Bob Neubauer, and there was 1 interview for the Tree Advisory Committee and Britain. So there, as far as the Tree Advisory Committee goes, you could probably just do that with the other committee assignments that are below.
okay,
Should we move the slate of unopposed candidates first?
Sure.
I move to appoint Stephen Dibus to the Arts Committee, Darrell Pillsbury to BCTV, Ann Wright and Stanley Wozalewski to the Citizen Police Communication Committee, Joe Bushy and Spoonagavi to the Development Review Board, Mike McGowan to the Development Review Board as an alternate, and Ann Britton as a member of the Tree Advisory Committee.
further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? A little bit different when we have multiple candidates. Just a reminder that you can nominate one person, you can nominate both people, and you can also vote for both people. You're not bound by one vote for one person. So every person who gets nominated, if you feel that you want to vote for that person, if there's a tie, we keep voting until someone gets tired of raising their hand. So let us do rescue first, and I will accept nominations for the rescue position.
No? Okay. I move to nominate Deborah Miller Chapman.
And I nominate Leon Boyd.
There we go.
Okay, and you vote in the order which they were nominated. All those in favor of Deborah Miller Chapman signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? She gets 5 votes. All those in favor of Leon Boyd signify by saying aye.
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 5-3. He gets 3 votes.
Okay,
So Deborah
Deborah
Miller
Miller
Chapman
Chapman.
is our new rescue trustee.
Could I add at this time sincere thanks to Mr. Boyd for his years of truly dedicated service?
Yes, you may. And again, Leon, I certainly appreciated all his service to the town, and there was a time when no one wanted to serve on that position, and he stepped up to the plate. So Steve really appreciated it. Okay, Brattleboro Housing Authority. We interviewed 2 people, Janet Kramer and Bob Neubauer. Are you ready for that, to make those
I
nominations?
would like to make a nomination.
Yes.
I would like to nominate Janet Kramer.
Okay. Are there any other nominations?
I nominate Bob Neubauer.
Okay. So all those in favor of Jeanette Kramer signify by saying aye.
Aye.
4 votes. All those for Bob Neubauer signify by saying aye. Aye. And Jeanette Kramer is the Housing Authority person. Thank you, and thank you, Bob, for applying for the seat. So we are set. Next up, tax rate.
Yay, moving right along.
Okay, John O'Connor, Finance Director, is here to give the lowdown on the fiscal year 2012 tax rates. What the board has received is an updated memo in front of them tonight. There was an error with regard to in the initial memo for the DID tax rate, the Downtown Improvement District tax rate. The board also then received some comparisons from of fiscal year 12 to fiscal year 13. So with that, John, if you want to go ahead and talk the numbers.
Okay. So the amount to be raised by taxes, as you can see, is $12,797,667. Part of that is the $17,243 for the locally voted exemptions. That's money that's not included in our budget. That's money that, because we've exempted veterans at a higher level than the state allows, we need to pay that money over to the state because they're still looking for their education taxes. So if you add the first number, the $12,702,424 and the $78,000, that number will tie into the budget if you look at the property tax line item in the budget. So the rate for the general fund operations is $1.1244. The local voted exemptions is $0.0015. The total is $1.1259, and that's an increase of 0.54%. The DID assessment is 0.1347, and that's a decrease of 1.6%. So overall, the grand list is at $11,296,840, and that's up $143,770. And the grand list is the assessed value divided by 100, and we do that because we set the tax rate based on $100 of valuation. So in reality, the assessed value of the property in the grand list went up by $14,377,000. The DID grand list is $578,920, and that grand list assessment increased by $2,385,700. So overall, we've got the education rates. The homestead rate is 1.5293, and the non-residential rate is 1.3853. And that, if you add that to the municipal rate, that's a 0.2% increase for the homestead owners, and a decline in the non-residential rate of 0.65%.
Before we read the motion, does the board have any questions for John or the listers? I have a question in terms of the co-op building. And that certainly was added in. The upper portion of the co-op building, because it is not being utilized yet, is that portion of that housing on the grand list? And if so, because it is part of the housing trust, what rate is that being taxed at?
Because it is owned by Wyndham Windsor Housing Trust, it comes under the state mandated method for figuring their tax rate on their multi-unit buildings. We have it valued for this year. It was partially completed as of April 1st. We have it valued at about $640,000, I believe. And because they will not be getting rentals for a part of the year, we made an adjustment in terms of the revenue figures that we would use for calculating the assessment.
Do you recall, because I don't, and I probably should have given a heads up, our increase in the grand list was 14,377. Do you recall what it was last year?
In the assessment value,
Yeah.
the number which was used to calculate the tax rate was 11.
Yeah, I have that number.
Yeah,
But I was wondering what the delta was with the increase in FY12. In FY13, the grand list is increased by 14 million. And I couldn't recall what the growth was in the FY12 grand list, if it was
last year.
last
No,
year.
I don't have that
And it's-
figure. This year, of course, the 14 million was ballooned somewhat because of the Velcro electric line addition of about 8 million. So if you set that aside, we had increases of about a little over 6 million for other than electric utilities during the year, bulk of that being Brattleboro Co-op.
Okay. All right. I will accept the motion unless someone else has further questions.
I move to approve the municipal tax rate of 1.1259 for $100 of assessed valuation for general fund operations, an additional 0.1347 for $100 of assessed valuation for the downtown improvement district, and to ratify the state mandated education property tax rates at $1.5293 for $100 of assessed valuation for homestead properties, and $1.3853 per $100 of assessed valuation for non-residential properties.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? 5-0. Thank you very much.
Can I have one other announcement?
Sure.
While we have people, as people may know, in the state of Vermont, there's been work being done on railroad crossings. So as part of a federal funding that was received. That work began last year, the northern part of the state. They are now ready to do the railroad crossing at Bridge Street.
Yay.
And so that Bridge Street will be closed on Sunday, July 8th from 5 a.m. until 6 a.m. on July 9th, Monday, July 9th. So it will be closed to all vehicular traffic for a 24-hour period. So persons interested in going into New Hampshire using the Hinsdale Bridge of Bird Street or Route 119 will have to seek alternate routes. On Monday, July 9th, beginning at approximately 6 a.m. Through 6 p.m. on Monday, so for a 12-hour period, there will be alternating one-lane traffic. It will be flagged. There will be flagged people there, allowing people to go through. So expect delays. Again, on Monday, make alternate travel plans. If you have to be somewhere at a specific time, you may want to leave a little bit early. There was a press release that went out today, and we're hoping to continue to let people know because it is a Sunday and a Monday, so thank you for that. I would also ask if the board would entertain an executive session to discuss a labor union contractual matter.
To discuss what, I'm sorry?
Now.
Before we do that, can we just announce the committees that still have openings while we have everybody here?
Sure.
So there's still an opening. There's 2 openings for alternates on the Development Review Board. There's an opening on the Conservation Commission, and I believe there's still openings on the Agriculture Advisory Board. It's hard to tell with all the names that are over here, but I think that it looks like there's still opening, at least one opening on that. So while we still have people here.
That's it?
That's it.
I would accept the motion to
Did
go
pretty well.
into executive session to discuss a contractual matter.
I move to go into executive session. Do we have to, and then do we come back to adjourn? Is that
Yes.
makes sense? Okay, then I would like David to make the motion.
I move to enter executive session to discuss labor relations matter, where the board has determined that premature public disclosure would put the town at a substantial disadvantage.
And we are inviting in the town manager
Invite in the town manager.
and the assistant town
The
manager.
assistant town manager.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Okay, we are back in session. It is 6:14. I would accept a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Thank you. We'll see everybody Wednesday. Parade
4th of
starts at
July.
10, 4th of July.